This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today we have a very important show. Well, of course, all our shows are important. But given the bunch of turmoil going on in the economy today, and we still don't know who the president is, so this is going to be a delayed broadcast, so understand that timing is everything in this thing. You know, if Trump does overturn it, which seems unlikely right now, we'll have World War XII. You know, all hell will break loose. And if Biden takes over, we're going to have the monsters. For those of you who are probably too old for that show, I mean, too young for that show, just look it up in there. And you'll see his cabinet. Biden's cabinet is called the monsters. And Biden just said, oh, I'm going to get Janet Yellen, who was the former Fed chairman, to be Secretary of Treasury. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Well, the average moron out there doesn't know what that means. And the reason appointing Yellen as head of the Treasury, we've just gone centralized. We've gone communist now. And the reason is because she was head of the Fed. And the Federal Reserve Bank, a centralized bank, is supposed to be separate from the Treasury. If you understand that, they should not be together. Anyway, that's all I did anyway. So this is a very exciting time. If Trump gets elected, we go to war. And if Biden stays in, I don't know what's going to happen. So that's why we have a very important show today. We have Rich Dad Advisor, one of the most important member of any entrepreneurial team is a guy like Tom Wheelwright, who's calling the shots on taxes. Janet Yellen, the government, is after your tax money, as you know that. And the reason for that is in 1971, President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and the U.S. dollar became a function of debt and taxes. So that's kind of why the Rich Dad Company was founded. And that's why guys like President Trump don't pay taxes. I don't pay taxes. You know, you're paying taxes. Then you went to the wrong school. I mean, that's all it means to me. So that's why Tom Wheelwright, his book is called Tax-Free Wealth. If you want to read the real story of America, read Tax-Free Wealth, and you'll find out why the rich are getting richer and the idiots are going to school and paying taxes. You see, somebody has to pay the tax. So if you understand that, then you'll understand why you shouldn't go to school. So with that, and then now with the monsters. You guys, I grew up watching those characters, and now I got to watch them as an adult. Man, this is not kind to my heart and my soul here, but it's entertaining. So, Tom, welcome to the show, and we're going to talk about the monsters.
That's awesome. Well, you know, the Democrats have this magic money theory. Modern monetary theory.
MMT.
I think it's magic money theory. And you know, so that's the Fed, right? So they think they can just print the money and everything's going to be fine. And then you tax people to, you know, enact your social policies. I mean, that's really, taxes have become social policy more than they have become even raising revenue under that theory.
Correct. And, you know, when we're talking about the New York Times attacks, my friend, President Trump, and they say he doesn't pay taxes. Well, he doesn't have a job. He doesn't take a salary as president of the United States. So how can he pay taxes? Any comments about that, Tom?
Well, no, it's true. I mean, you know, entrepreneurs, professional investors, the tax law is just built for them, and it's built for the government sharing on the investments that they make, and basically the government puts up part of the money, and they put up part of the money, and they end up not paying taxes. And that's basically the way the whole tax law is structured. So it's not going to change under Biden. So all that's going to change is where those tax incentives lie. It's not, the fact of tax incentives are never going to change.
Well, there's going to be incentives, but who's going to get them is the question. And unfortunately, the average person is not going to get them. The rich will still get the tax breaks, right?
Well, for sure. The average person, there's nothing in Biden's plan that says taxes are going down. No. He says, I'm not going to raise taxes on certain people, but there's nowhere where he says, I'm going to reduce taxes. So they're just going to keep going up. They're going to keep going up. And he says he's going to tax the rich, but what he's really going to do is tax the high income earners. That's who he's going to tax.
the guys with high-paying jobs like Obama, who was earning $400K a year, and Biden was earning $300K a year. They're now billionaires. So they did something right.
Or like
what they did.
Or like Kamala Harris, who, you know, pays millions of dollars in taxes. So
yeah. Anyway, just FYI, Tom, you know, we always talk about the three basic taxes: ordinary, or the types of income, ordinary income, portfolio income, and passive income. I mean, that's basic rich dad, poor dad. So would you explain ordinary income, portfolio income, and passive income? And the reason Trump doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't have a job, no ordinary income. He doesn't save money. He probably doesn't have a 401k. That's all ordinary income. And that's what every person out there is paying. Right, Tom?
Right. So ordinary income is basically income that you earn. And portfolio income is income from investments like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And passive income is income from investments into real estate, oil and gas, and other types of productive activities.
Right. And then passive pays the least taxes because you're doing kind of what the government wants you to do. I mean,
well, you're doing exactly what the government wants you to do. They're putting in the incentives saying, look, if you do this, we will contribute. If you don't do it, we're not going to contribute, and we're just going to take our taxes. So you get to choose whether you contribute and do what the government wants done, or you pay a lot of taxes. Either way, the government comes out ahead.
So anyway, when somebody says, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and put your money in a 401k, what kind of taxes are they going to pay?
That's ordinary taxes. So those are the highest tax rates.
Why doesn't the New York Times write that?
I think they're all employees and they're all paying the highest tax rates. They don't understand, you know, they clearly they were attacking somebody, and you know, they don't want to acknowledge the way the tax law really works. And you know, here's the thing. I mean, Joe Biden was a senator for almost 40 years, and he was part of all those tax changes.
Right. And his family, and you know, the money by those tapes that nobody played of Hunter Biden, his son, his bag man, that money went to the Biden family. It didn't go to Joe, so they never saw it. And the New York Times or Silicon Valley would never report that stuff. So today I'm sitting here, the election's still in question. It can't get any worse than this. Tom, what could be worse than this?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know, anytime you mix the Fed and Wall Street and the Treasury, you're in trouble.
And Silicon Valley. I mean, all those geeks out there. Jeez.
Well, and they're out there protecting Silicon Valley pretty heavily. So they really are protecting those guys.
And then last night, this was December 7th, you know, Pearl Harbor Day, but, you know, Tucker Carlson dropped the biggest bomb in America, but the press never got it. It was a picture of a high-ranking Chinese official talking to the Chinese government saying everything was fine. See, all these rich guys were making tons of money off of China. You know, even guys like Ray Dalio, whose money came from China, you know, it's Bridgewater. See, these guys are making fortunes off of China. I mean, I was too. But all of a sudden, 2008 hit. And the thing came apart. And then what the Chinese guy was saying, this is on Tucker Carlson, December 7th, watch the show. He was this Chinese guy speaking in Chinese. They had to translate it, of course. And Fox double verified the translation. So it was, you know, two different people saying this, two translators saying the same thing. He says, all of a sudden, China realized Wall Street was in trouble in 2008. And then in 2016, Trump comes in and all hell broke loose. And this Chinese official says, but we have people in high places in Washington, and we'll take care of Trump. So this was December 7th, you know, 2020 on Tucker Carlson show. And then I'm just sitting there chuckling as the monsters becomes the cabinet of the United States. I mean, what else can we ask for? So Tom, let's get back to taxes. Are you going to protect me from the monsters?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, you know, like I said, it's really just the incentives will change, and we'll just move to those incentives. So, you know, for example, you know, if the incentives were in multifamily housing, and they may move to real estate that has to do with clean energy. Okay, but they'll still be real estate. They'll still be energy. So it may move from oil and gas to solar, but there's still going to be the incentives. And it's just a matter of watching carefully and knowing what's coming, and then deciding, are you going to put your money where the government wants you to put it?
But this is the point. Okay, Tom, one more thing. It's about why we have no financial education in school. You and I have traveled the world. We tell people the same thing. We've been in capitalist countries, communist countries, and no matter where we go, capitalist or communist, they all come up and say, you can't do this in my country. Is that correct?
Every one of them. Without even in Kazakhstan, they came up to us.
But even in California, well, California is an exception. But anyway, they say you can't do this in America. Oh, you can't do this in America. You can't do this in Kazakhstan. You can't do this in Australia. But isn't it the same all over the world? The rich don't pay taxes?
The tax law is virtually identical around the world. The incentives are slightly different, but if you follow what the tax law does and what the government wants you to do, you're never going to have to pay taxes if you do what the government wants done.
Right. So the most important thing here is if, Trump doesn't overthrow this thing and then we have a revolution, then we're going to figure out what the new tax incentives are going to be. So when we come back, that's what we're going to talk about, because the monsters work for China. Really, they do. And they work for the radical left out of Silicon Valley. That's where the money comes from to fund the elections. So as long as you know that and you don't get so upset by it, oh, they wouldn't do that, then you can wake up. And if you don't believe me, go to the Tucker Carlson show on December 7th, 2020, and watch this Chinese official saying exactly what I just said. So it's in 2008, when the real estate market crashed in 2008, and Trump got elected president in 2016. He says, well, we have friends in high places, and they'll take care of Trump. And that's what happened in this election. So when you understand that and you pretend that, Mary Poppins is not running the show, if you think Janet Yellen, these guys are here to put their agenda of socialism through on America. But the tax laws will remain the same, thank God. So when we come back, we'll be going into how you can still get rich and stay richer, but you got to keep your minds open and change your, forget what they taught you in the Communist Republic of Education. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and put your money in a 401k. If you do that, you'll pay the highest taxes. Get that through your head. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today our special guest is Tom Wheelwright. We're talking about the tax laws of the monsters. Anyway, Tom is the author of Tax-Free Wealth, How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes. And one more thing is you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, or YouTube. And they'll probably dethrone me now for calling the President of the United States and this cabinet the monsters. But anyway, they have no sense of humor. And please leave us a review whenever you listen. You can listen to our podcast again on Rich Dad Radio. And we archive our podcast for one reason, so you can listen to it again. And if you listen to this again, you might learn more about who and why is going to pay the most taxes. And also you can talk to your friends, family, and business associates and discuss this. Listen to this thing, and you might open your minds as to why you might be making more money, but you're just paying more in taxes. Because as you guys should know by now, the rich don't pay taxes. And the reason they don't pay taxes is because they have better financial education. So we started in the first part of the show, there's 3 types of income: ordinary, portfolio, passive. And the reason President Trump doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't have a job, he doesn't save money, and he doesn't have a 401k. And it drives the academic elite nuts. So with that said, Tom, let's get back to the other things. They say, oh, we're only going to tax those making over 400K a year. So if you're not making 400K a year, what would you say to them as a tax expert?
Well, first thing I'd say is, are you happy with the taxes you're paying now? Because they're not going down. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that you're already paying high taxes. And so the idea that they're not going up, oh, wow, great. They're already high, but they're not going up. Oh, good. So I find that pretty hilarious. And they're, and they're going to, with the inflation and the whole idea behind what the Fed's doing, the idea is to push wages up. You're going to be over that $400,000 pretty quick. And even if you're not, there's a huge trickle down. I mean, the reality is the rich are the employers, right? And so if they are getting taxed, then you can absolutely be sure that the employees are going to feel the hit.
Well, there's another way of looking at this. They must get inflation up. Otherwise, we're dead. That's why Janet Yellen took over the Fed and the Treasury. They have to get inflation. Otherwise, the economy collapses. So they just pushed with this social BS they put out. They want Starbucks, all the Starbucks employees to make $15 an hour minimum, which I feel for them. But all that does is push prices up. You see, if you understand the purpose of this whole thing is to push prices up to get inflation, because if they can't start inflation, we have deflation, and that's called depression. And that's why Janet Yellen took over from the Fed and the Treasury now. They're trying to push everything up. So they want to push your wages up, or so you can pay more taxes. And so that means we're going to have inflation in everything. So if Starbucks raises their pay to $15, well, that's going to affect everybody because they're everywhere. I mean, if you understand that, then you'll wonder why they don't teach you this in school. And the reason they don't teach you this in school is most school teachers are hardcore communists, but they don't know it because they never studied financial education in school. They don't understand this is a centralized government we have, and that's what we had a central bank, and then we had a treasury, and now they're one. And most school teachers are communists, but they don't know it. They don't know what centralized government means. We're now centralized government. So that's why what Tom is talking about here, if you're sending your kids to school, I'd yank them out right now and to, slap some put some capitalist information into the head, because you go to school, get a job, you save money, and you put a 401k, you're going to pay the highest taxes. And they're going to keep driving that up so they can get the tax base up so they can pay off the debt. Am I correct, Tom?
Well, there's no question. And of course, inflation by itself is a tax. So, you're really getting multiple taxes going on here. Plus you've got other taxes that they continue to raise. All the states now raising sales taxes, property taxes. I mean, look at all the different taxes you're talking about. And if the Fed doesn't raise the taxes, the states will.
Right. And then when they raise taxes on property tax, I just raised the rent to the poor tenant, right?
Well, that's what happens. I mean, the rich never take the hit. I mean, let's be honest. It's not the rich that are going to take the hit. It's the average consumer. It's the employee. It's the average person that takes the hit every single time.
Yeah. So listen to this. Remember, they attacked President Trump, who's a friend of mine. He says stupid things, but he knows what he's doing. They're after him. Watch Tucker Carlson. They said the moment when Trump got elected in 2016, the Chinese guy says we have people in high places. That's Hunter Biden and the Munsters. If you understand that, you'll understand why we're in trouble. But the other part too is like, I'm already making changes, because they're after oil and coal. That's who they're after, because it's a Green New Deal. So we had Marin Katusa. Everybody should listen to that from the Rich Dad Radio Show. Marin Katusa is talking about how they're going to shift from fossil fuels to the Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal is where the tax breaks are going to come from. So I've already made my shift. So the funny thing is the capitalists will pay less in taxes because the socialists will be giving me the money to invest in the Green New Deal. Am I correct, Tom?
No, that's exactly what's going to happen, because the socialists, they can't make it happen. All they can do is fund it. Okay, but they're going to fund it through the tax breaks. And so the capitalists are going to get the funding, pay less taxes. It's going to be clean energy, but it's going to be the capitalist way.
Yeah, I'm a sick individual when I see the cabinet of the United States. But anyway, my friend calls in, oh, I'm so happy. My daughter's in the honors program at school. And she's going to learn to be a taxpayer.
It's true.
And the school teachers don't know they're communists because they don't study financial economics. If they knew that going to school, getting a job, saving money, getting out of debt and investing in a 401k makes you the highest taxpayer on planet Earth. Tom, would you want to slap them around and tell them to wake up?
Well, for sure. I mean, that's why they're complaining about the rich not paying taxes, because they pay taxes. If they didn't pay taxes, they wouldn't complain about the rich not paying taxes.
And so every time, AOC and all those other communists start talking about the Green New Deal, I get sexually stimulated. I'm going to, more tax breaks.
I got to tell you, I think the opportunities are going to be unbelievable.
I know.
This is the biggest thing. Seriously, this is the biggest thing since the internet, in my mind. Just a whole different economy, a whole different set of incentives, a whole different set of opportunities. I mean, this is, getting educated in this, Robert. I think what you're doing on this is just critical.
Yeah, and then please check out the Rich Dad Radio program with Marin Katusa. Also, we have a new book coming out called Infinite Returns, but the book's just been morphed into the Capitalist Manifesto. It's the reason it is because the communists, called our school teachers, are still running the system. The communists in Silicon Valley are still running the system. And the monsters are now taking over the system. And we have Grandpa as Treasury and Fed. If you get the significance of that, you'll understand communism. But if you don't get the difference, then you'll just bitch at the capitalists for paying no taxes. Please understand this. It's one of the most biggest distinctions. It's all in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but the average person can't see it because they think saving money is smart. They think a 401k is smart. They think earning more money is smart. But that's not it, is it, Tom? So, to pay taxes it is, but not to get rich or pay less tax.
Yeah, here's the thing. The people who pay high taxes also get the lowest returns on their investment because the type of things that you invest in to get the tax breaks also pay the higher returns. And so it's that combination of just understanding that, boy, if you really understood the tax law and you really understood financial education, you'd make higher returns, have lower risk, and pay no taxes.
Right. So, I want to endorse Tom's book, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. It's a Rich Dad Advisor book. It's the basis of capitalism. You want to be a communist? Well, go to school. Go to school because they teach Marxism. They teach Leninism in school. You know what Lenin said way back when, before there was a Stalin? What Lenin said is that you send a kid to school for 8 years, we've got a Bolshevik. And a Bolshevik is a member of the Communist Party. That's what Lenin said. It's a quote. You can look up Lenin. And the other thing he said is the best way to kill capitalism is to debauch the currency. And that's what they did in 1971. And that's why there's a Fed and that's why there's a Treasury. If you just study your effing history, not that communist history that they teach you, all this stuff about we're tearing down our statues and trying to change our history. Why don't you read history, you idiots? Why don't you read real history? Understand why we go to war. What do we do? Why are we fighting socialism? Why are we fighting communism? Why do we fight Marxism? And it goes into our money and our taxes. And that's why Tom Wheelwright is essential for his book, Tax-Free Wealth, should be your Bible as to how to become a capitalist. So, Tom, I'll give you a final pitch. Why should people read your book? Well, if they're going to be communists, don't read it. But if you're going to be a capitalist, why should they read it?
If you literally want to make more money and pay less tax while you're making more money, okay, then that's what tax-free wealth is all about. It's really, how do I do things that the government wants me to do? They're more productive, that actually give us higher returns, that actually give me control over my life, not that those ridiculous 401k and profit sharing pension plans that you have absolutely no control over. And you can control this. You can send your kids to school tax-free. I mean, you can have your kids earning lots of money and paying very little tax for your kids. So it's not just you. Think about your children and their children. And this is something that is really a legacy of being able to pass on the financial education to your children and your children's children.
Correct. And so my friend who said, oh, my daughter is in the honors program at school. Well, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say, great. Okay, we need more taxpayers that are going to pay a lot of tax. That's awesome.
Well, when it might need a new cabinet member. So with that, Tom, The reason I'm laughing so much is because it's so sad. I have to laugh. Otherwise, I'd shoot myself. Do you know what I mean? Just step back. Watch Tucker Carlson, December 7th, you know, talking about the Chinese thing when Trump came in. We have people in high places. Well, that person in high places was Joe Biden and his family. And now his cabinet is the monsters. You know, Janet Yellen was head of the Treasury. I'm head of the Fed, and now she's head. If they transition, they'll be head of the Treasury. That's communism. If you understand that, you've got something from today's show. And if you think I'm an idiot for saying, you're probably a communist. Anyway, Tom's website is wealthability.com. Final words, Tom.
You know, I was thinking about what you're saying about the cabinet and everything. I'm going, you know, Trump's been attacked for upsetting the establishment, and Biden's bringing in the establishment to run the country. So that's what's going on. And the good news is there's always going to be tax breaks. There's always a way to reduce your taxes, make more money, and you get to choose. You get to choose what you do. So that's good.
And please go to the archives again. The archives is where you'll find Marion Katusa's program with Rich Dad. And we're talking about what's called cosmic accounting. It's God's accounting system. And thank God the socialists are going to push through the Green New Deal because the capitalists will get richer. Hey, Tom, thank you very much. And when we come back, we're going to the final words from Rich Dad Radio. Thanks, Tom. I think I better move into a safe house and hide because the social media will come after me on this one, all those communists. Once again, if you think I'm an idiot, it might be because you're a communist. I'm serious, because they don't teach you this in school. They teach you to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and put your money in, get out of debt and put your money in a 401k. That's everything that keeps you poor. You know, you can ask Tom, debt is tax-free money, right?
That's right.
That's why I borrow so much. And these other guys tell you not to borrow. So if you get those differences, you'll understand why you probably think like a socialist or a communist or a Marxist, and capitalists think differently. And that's why on Tucker Carlson, December 7th, you know, the Chinese guy says, we have to get rid of this guy Trump, and we have friends in high places. Anyway, Tom, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
I'll listen to the Rich Dad radio program. If I disappear, you'll know why. Thank you very much. Bye.